Welcome back. You're watching Al Jazeera with me, Sahil Rahman. A reminder of our top stories. Health authorities in Gaza say 50 people have been killed and dozens more injured in Israeli attacks across the Strip on Thursday. More than 200 have been killed in the past 24 hours. Israel is intensifying its campaign in central and southern Gaza. It says 6 of its soldiers have been killed in the latest battles with Palestinian fighters. 156 troops have died since the start of the ground offensive. And the Israeli army has conducted one of its largest raids across the occupied West Bank since the war in Gaza began. At least one Palestinian has been killed in the confrontations and dozens injured. Let's bring in Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst. There are so many moving parts to this story, and it's been like this for weeks now. But I just wondered whether you had noticed a change in tone when it comes to the nature of the war and the way people are talking now compared to what they've been or how they've been talking in the weeks previous.
Absolutely, there is change. The change is slow coming, but it is coming. Unfortunately, it comes after tens of thousands of casualties in Gaza. But clearly, more and more analysts, including among Israel's darling friends in the United States and the United Kingdom, whereby more or less observers, analysts, academics beginning to talk about how Israel is not achieving its objectives, why these objectives are not achievable in the first place, and why there should be some change of course at this point in time, not just because President Biden would like it, not just because America insists on it, but it's also because Israel apparently will need it. Otherwise, it's going to get stuck with more of the same. But we do have an Israeli government that's also being observed nowadays among various observers, is that Netanyahu has a separate agenda from that of Israel, per se. He has a personal agenda that involves prolonging the war in as much as possible because he wants to move in from being the political criminal he is to becoming a wartime hero. That's not working very well for him now that more and more Israeli soldiers are dying, that more and more Palestinian civilians are dying, and the Israeli public is becoming more and more restless.
A change of course, as you say, involves a change of dialogue even within the Israeli diaspora, which you just talked about. It feels like there is a vying, not just for position right now in the politique, but also in the future in terms of an election. It only seems like yesterday when we had an Israeli election again and again and again, I think 4 of them in the year. But that's what it all ends up being or heading towards, doesn't it? Being in control and setting the agenda for the future of the state of Israel.
Well, clearly, when you look at the history, Israel is like a political circus. When it comes to its politics, every politician is a political animal in that country. And they really vie in every possible mean to get ahead. And Netanyahu is, of course, infamous for it. And that's why he's indicted on a number of corruption charges, because it actually involves advancing his political career, against the law within the country. But most Israelis do it. Now, the difference here when it comes against the backdrop of the war is actually quite instructive. We have 2 kinds of politicians today in Israel. We have what we would call the disciplined warmongers and the undisciplined warmongers. The disciplined warmongers are like Gantz and Gallant, who are running a military, who would like it to be organized, and they would like it to execute orders the way it should be executing orders, even if that involves genocide. But it is an army that is professional, carrying out orders of a state where there's a political hierarchy and so on and so forth. And then there is the undisciplined warmongers, the rogue elements within the government itself, like the Ben-Gvirs and the Smotrich and others, who encourage settlers' violence against the Palestinians, who would like to cut all aid to the Palestinians in Gaza, who would like to cut all fuel to the Palestinians in Gaza, who would like to crack down on prisoners, who would like to carry the maximum punishment sentence, including killing of prisoners and so on and so forth. So you have 2 kinds, right? And they are vying today in a very populist way over the future of the country. The generals and the military disciplined individuals like Gantz and Gallant, and the other rogue elements. And believe it or not, the rogue elements are actually gaining traction in the country. And they've been gaining traction in the country now for a good number of years. And that reminds me just quickly of the most famous sage in Israel's recent history by the name of Yeshayahu Leibovich. He said, right after the 1967 war, he said, if we're going to occupy Gaza and the West Bank, we are going to become, our soldiers will become Judeo-Nazis. We will become the occupiers, the oppressors, and eventually we will become genociders. That's been predicted 55 years ago. You can imagine how this country really is moving quickly towards a more populist, extreme kind of politics that will eventually lead to no place for reconciliation and peace negotiations with the Palestinians.
We'll continue to unpick this throughout the day. For the moment, Marwan Bishara, thank you.